So my idea will be to start talking a little bit about the different questions from the interview. So my idea is to talk about the interview, to try to go a little bit deeper or to bring a new point of view, and also to have questions about something that you read and you didn't really get it, or you would like to know more things. Based on the interview, but the interview is very general, so we can talk about many things. So my idea will be to go through the questions, to have a little introduction to each of the questions that come from the interview, and then to open it to see if you have any questions about it or some comments or something you want to add. It's raining a lot here. So the first question, the first subject of the interview was the lady, her name was Alina, Alina, the one that interviewed me. And she said that in my book, I underlined the idea that every moment, no matter how small or ordinary, is precious. And I feel that this is really a very good beginning for the whole spiritual search. And it is a beginning, but it is a fundamental, a very important beginning. The beginning of start to really, truly, deeply start to value this moment right now. The mind, in a sense, the mind is not made for this moment right now. This is important to understand. The mind is the process of thinking and emoting about experience. And what happens in the moment is experience, but the thinking and the emoting is always refers to experience. It doesn't refer to the moment. Every experience is now, but then any thought or any emotions refer to the experience that happened before. And so the mind is not made for the moment. So in a sense, start to connect to the moment is a way to start to connect with something that is beyond the mind, with something that is prior to the mind, that's something that is more than the mind. And but the most important thing that we have is our experience. That's the most precious thing. That's the thing that we really value. We value our thought, we value our emotions, but the thought come and go. Remember the thing you were thinking when you were 5 years old, another thing that you think when you're 20, and another thing that you think when you're 50. But the experience of being, that is always the same experience. And that's what you really, really value. In the moment we value our thoughts, we value our emotions, we truly value that, and they are important, but nothing is as valuable, nothing is as important as the experience, and the experience only happens now, and now is not something that the mind can penetrate. other than as a thought about the experience or as an emotion about the experience, as a memory of the experience, as an idea of the experience. And the problem with this moment is that we don't have enough value. We value what's coming. We value the future. And so our whole life is based on values. It's only we pay attention to what we value. And this is something that is very important to remember. We only pay attention to what we value. And many times we value things that we don't really value. For example, every mother values very much their kids, but many times we pay much more attention to our problems than to our kids. And that's because we are not very clear about our values. Like time passes and then we realize how little time we spend with our kids. For example, this is just a very little example, but it happens many, many times to many, many parents. Or if you're not a parent, it just happens to many people that what we value really is the experience of the moment, but then we spend so much time thinking about the future that at a certain point we realize, my goodness, I didn't pay enough attention to my life. I spend so much time trying to build my life the way I want to try to be more comfortable, to try to have more security, I spend so much time in the future trying to build something, and I didn't have enough time to pay attention to the simple moments of drinking a cup of tea or feeling my own body or experiencing the beauty of a moment or the beauty of another person. So, but this is something that first it has to be understood in the mind. The mind is very important. We need to understand this in the mind. But then we need to bring this understanding as a practice. We need to practice in our everyday life, paying attention to the moment, seeing how much I am valuing the moment. It doesn't mean that we are not going to value the future. We need to value the future, what's going to come. We need to value where we are going. We need to value our security. We need to value making money. We need to value our next appointment. We need to value those things. But we need to value also the experience of this moment. Because without the value, I will not make the effort to stop and to pay attention to the moment. It's not easy to stop. The mind is very active, very moving, very worried, very anxious. So to stop that anxiety, to stop the energy of moving, of going, it requires a very powerful energy. And the very powerful energy is the power of value. Is the power of understanding that this moment is my most precious possession. And then we will come to this a bit later, but I'm interested, I am especially interested in what I call spirituality. And we will talk a bit more about that in I think the third or fourth question. And this moment is the doorway to spirituality, to true spirituality. There is no other door to spirituality. Spirituality, this is the doorway, the moment, because the moment is the only thing that exists. Truly existing, only the moment exists. The future is a thought in the mind. It exists only as a thought in the mind. It doesn't exist as a reality. The past exists only as a thought in the mind. It doesn't exist as a reality. You can only access the past as a thought in the mind. You can only access the future as a thought in the mind. You can also access a pink elephant only as a thought in the mind. So the pink elephant is not very useful unless you tell a story to a kid. The future and the past are very, very necessary, but they still similar at the similar level of non-existence. They don't really exist. They don't really exist other than as a thought in the mind. So anyway, I mean, of course, each of these questions we can talk for the whole hour. But do you have any comments, any questions, any thing you want to add, any things you want to ask about this particular, this moment right now? You can either write it in the chat, or you can, as you say, you can unmute yourself and talk. Please do that. If you do, if not, we just go to the next one.
Carlos?
Yes.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes, Leah.
Not a question. If you can explain to us in more detail what Buddha said when he said, if you take care of this moment, you take care of the whole eternity.
Okay, that's a beautiful question. Of course, I don't know what the Buddha said because I never met him. I can only understand from myself what he said. And to me, what he says is that this moment is not separate from eternity. Eternity is not a lot of time. We, in our mind, we think of eternity as a lot of time. Yes, think of eternity, and you believe that it's time that doesn't stop, time that continues. Yes, you understand what I mean? That's the way we think of eternity. We think of eternity as time, but very long, infinitely long. But eternity is not time. Eternity is no time. There is no time in eternity. Our minds, because they are accustomed to think on time, then when they hear the word eternity, they put eternity into the box of time. So they make a very long time. But eternity means that there is no time. And that's exactly what is this moment right now. This is very big to understand. It's not easy to understand. But we are, this is beautiful. If you get it, it blows your mind, and it should blow your mind, because that's exactly what it does. The mind cannot get it, because the mind is in time. That's why we think about eternity as time, because we think with the mind. But the now, this now is not in time. Tell me how long this moment lasts. Try to think, all of you, try to think how long this moment lasts. Like there is we know time, there's three parts: past, present, and future. How long does this present moment last? Before the past, like after the past and before the future? How long? 1 second? Half a second? Half a millisecond? A millisecond? How long does it last after the past and before the future? You cannot think that way.
An eternity.
But this is what is so amazing. We are living in eternity, but eternity, when it passes through the mind, and the mind is only an instrument. Remember, the mind is an instrument. It's a beautiful, amazing instrument that we are given as human beings. It's the most refined instrument that has ever been created in the whole universe. In the time, until right now, maybe in 100 years there will be something else. Human beings will develop another thing or something. But the universe is, okay, there are laws in the universe. The universe is everything. And then we come with our minds, we look at the universe, but we look at the universe through the instrument of our minds. But the problem is that we trust our minds and we believe that what the minds is seeing is actually what is out there. But what is out there is, we don't know. What we know is that through the mind, what is out there, it seems to be the way it is. Like, just before coming here, I was in the forest with my son. And I mean, I talk about these things in many ways with my son, not as much as I talk with you, but I often, because this is what I do. I don't speak too much about geometry or history or politics or movies. So I try to talk to him about philosophy, and he doesn't care too much, but he told me today that he's been thinking about, I don't know how much it's true, but he told me that he's been thinking about what is the true color. Because he's seeing colors, and he says that the way I see the color is different from the way a dog sees a color. He told me exactly this. And so he was saying, what is the true color, actually? I was thinking, what is a true color? And what is a true color? There is no true color. The colors depends on the eyes. The colors depends on the instrument through which you see. If there are different instruments will see different colors. There are no true colors in nature. There is only different minds. There is the mind of the mosquito, there is the mind of the dog, there is the mind of the buffalo, there is the mind of the bacteria, and there is the mind of the human being. And each mind will see a different color. And colors is exactly what the universe is. We see a different universe, depends with the mind. And we see the universe as time. But there is not really time. Time is only a process from the mind. This moment, which is all there is always here. This now is an eternal now. So eternity and now are exactly the same thing, if you can understand it. Anyway, that's a big thing, what I just said now.
Carlos, maybe what if we say time doesn't exist or is stable? Time is stable and we are moving through time.
The mind, if you look at the world through the mind, then from that point of view, there is time, and we are moving in time. There is no time in reality. Time is a creation of the mind. If you start to understand that, what you start to see that all there is this moment right now. All there is ever is this moment right now. And in this moment, things are passing through. But the moment is always the same one. The moment is always here. And what passed through
The moment is the presence.
Yes, the moment is the present. And the moment also, this is also very hard to understand, but the moments happen also to be you. We will see this a little bit more when we come to the spiritual part, that you are also the moment. That's why that's the original sin. That's the big mistake, that we mistake ourselves for the thing that comes and goes, for the character that is born and dies. But we should identify ourselves with the with the awareness that doesn't come and go. Mm-hmm. The awareness that is in this moment, that is this moment, and that is eternal. That's a big thing. That's a very big idea.
Thank you.
So anyway, if you pay attention to this moment, if you take care of this moment, that's also, Leah, this is a translation. I don't know exactly if the Buddha ever said exactly this like this. There are many translations from the Buddha that are very different from each other, even the same things. I don't know if exactly he says something like this, or this is something that has been translated in a more New Age, because this sounds very New Age. And it could be a translation of a New Age understanding, which is not as deep as the true thought that the Buddha had. The understandings of the Buddha are pure, are the most profound things. And the New Age understanding of Buddhism and what the Buddha says is more superficial. Let's go to the second. Unless you have something to say, please. Well, the second one is about my book, but there is not much to say about my book. I mean, there is how the book came into place, and there is not much to. The third question, she says, one important aspect that you emphasize in your book is the importance of being in touch with oneself. Apparently, it is a solitary project. But since we are all interconnected, don't you think that this type of journey needs some common learning, some shared context or experience, in order to fully embrace the interconnected being that we are? A beautiful image for this interconnection. This is a beautiful word. It's also a New Age word, but a very good image to have to understand these interconnections is that we are like waves in an ocean. So try to imagine we are waves in an ocean. You see that the way we see ourselves, we really don't see like waves in an ocean. I look at myself and I see that I finish in my skin. Yes? You have the feeling that you finish in your skin. And if you look at your body, you look at your skin, you look at the limit of your skin, and then right out of the skin, there is space. And then, for example, here I am in my room, I have my skin, after my skin comes space, and then a little bit after the space comes my bed. So I am here, then there is a space, and then there is the sofa, my bed. That's how we feel ourselves, yes? But interconnectedness is more like we are waves in an ocean. Imagine if And a wave could look at herself in Spanish, a wave is female. I don't know how it's in Romanian. Is a female also? No? Okay. So good. So
It's neutral.
is what?
Neutral.
Neutral, I see. No, in Spanish it's la ola. So it's a female, but anyway. So imagine a wave will look at herself or himself or itself, and we look at the other wave, and you will see that the wave itself is water. In between there is water, and right, the other wave is also made of water. That's what interconnectedness means. Or that's how we can picture interconnectedness. But we don't feel ourselves that way. And that is what spirituality is. That recognition that there is that interconnectedness. And the interconnectedness is at the very depth of our existence. It's not a superficial interconnectedness. For example, I remember a couple of years ago, there was an advertising, try to put people closer to each other. There was an advertising that they were taking people from different cultures, and they took some blood for them, and then with some analysis, they discovered that, for example, somebody from England had some traces from a culture from Africa or from culture from other continents. And so what they were saying is that everybody that was there from completely different cultures, they had somewhere in their blood, there was some connection with cultures that were completely different. So that's another kind of interconnectedness. Like I feel that I am white, very white, but actually somewhere in my blood, I have also some yellow blood or some black blood or something like that. That's, you understand, that's a kind of interconnectedness. But the one I'm talking is much, much, much deeper than that. It's much more essential than that. It's much, is at the very essence of what we are exactly the same. We are interconnected at the very essence of what we are, not just a little bit of blood. Like I am like this, but I have some blood that connect me with somebody else. At the very depths of my being, what I am is exactly the same as what everybody else is. And our whole, the true suffering that we have is our lack of understanding of exactly this interconnectedness. Is the feeling that we are separated, the feeling that I am very small and limited to only what is inside the skin, and that everything outside of my skin is not me, is separated from me. And if you believe that, then there is something that you have to do in order to interconnect with somebody else. There is an action that you have to do. There is something that you have to create or perform in order to connect with somebody else. But what I'm saying, the teaching, is that if you are a wave, you are the ocean, you are already that. But because you don't know it, then you feel that there is something you have to do in order to connect with something else. You understand what I'm saying? Does it make sense? I see you all a bit too...
Carlos, can I ask you something about this?
Raluca,
Because
please.
actually I had a question about this. I don't really get it.
Yes.
Yeah, so I actually, when I was reading the article, I have a bit of yeah, hard time of really picturing this exactly what you're saying. So, and actually seems to be like a bit of paradox, which I'm sure is not. It's only in my
I'm sure
mind.
yes, it seems to be a lot of yes.
Yeah, because you say here that, so basically uh, in your answer you're saying, right, that we hear a lot in your teachings that um, the only way to see like, you know, the real truth is by returning to myself, right? So always come to myself, everything is myself, this is how I grasp everything, this is what the essence. And then I cannot really completely reconcile this with what you're saying now, right? But still we are connected with everybody, and I'm saying this from the perspective especially of relationship, I guess, right? Not connected with like just all the environment, but with other people. So the essence is in myself, but then I'm also connected with others. So I cannot, you know, I don't know if I
Well,
can.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying, that it's hard to get.
Yeah,
You have to return to yourself to see what is myself.
yeah,
When I said myself, what do you say myself? What do you call myself?
myself.
Exactly. That's a question. That's why you have to go back to yourself
Yeah,
and ask yourself, what am I? What is it I am? What is it I think I am? What do I consider myself to be?
yeah.
What do you consider yourself to be?
I mean, what you're saying that I am is this presence, right? It's awareness. Yeah, awareness.
Okay, but how do you know that this awareness is in you and not anywhere? I mean, most people will say, well, I am me, I am this body, I am
Yeah,
this.
definitely not the body. So yeah, that part I got it. So definitely not the body, not the mind. So the awareness. So I'm awareness. Okay. So I always need to come back to this awareness, right?
Well, if you start to understand that maybe you are this awareness, start to pay attention to this awareness, start to connect to it more deeply, start to be more interested in it in your everyday life. See what makes this awareness so special. See what it is about this awareness. For example, one thing that makes about this awareness is that it's always the same awareness. My thoughts change, my emotions change, my activities change, my desires change, my body change, but does the awareness change?
No.
But start to see that everything is changing, but that the awareness that is aware of the change, it doesn't change.
Yes.
Start to see that this awareness doesn't have a form, it doesn't have a shape, it doesn't have something that you can, and it is exactly that awareness that is the same awareness, that awareness, a very beautiful simile that is used very often is like electricity. Awareness is like electricity. Let's say your computer doesn't work on its own. For the computer to work, you need electricity. For the light, I have a light there. The light doesn't work on its own. For the light, you need electricity. Let's say you have a fan because you are very cold, you are very hot, so you need a fan to ventilate you. The fan doesn't work on itself. The fan needs electricity. So the computer, the light, and the fan are apparently three very different things, but at the very essence of them, what really gives them life is exactly the same thing, is electricity. Now, you, Raluca, me, Carlos, and I don't know, you, Joanna, we are three different things. We are like a computer, a light, and a fan. But the three of us are given life by the same electricity, by the same awareness. The life that we have, what is seen through your eyes, what is hearing through your ears, what is thinking to your mind is the awareness. And the same awareness that is thinking, that is looking through my eyes, is the same awareness that is looking through your eyes. We are going pretty high. And many times we talk about, remember I often mention that sometimes we talk about presence with lower P and presence with upper P. Presence with lower P is more what I call psychology, and presence with upper P is more what I call spirituality. What we are talking now is much more is spirituality, it's not psychology. It's much more hard to get. It's much more difficult to find the interest, the true interest in it. Psychology can help me to solve my problems. Spirituality is at a different level.
Can we say we are the cells of the same body?
Say that again?
Can we picture this awareness? Awareness in awareness, or waves in the ocean, like cells of the same body.
You can picture that. You can say, I mean, awareness is like the ocean, and the waves are like different body minds. So the wave is only a shape and a form of the ocean. And each body mind is a shape and a form of awareness.
Or different facets of awareness.
Different facets. I don't know what you mean by facets.
Different form, shape of expression of
Yes.
this awareness.
Yes, you can say that. Yes, definitely. Yes. Yes, different expressions of awareness. Yes.
There was that book from Sri Ramana Maharshi that's called Who Am I, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's, it ties to that question. You
Yes,
posed.
well, he was one of
Yeah.
the most famous modern teachers of this particular knowledge. Yes, he was the true, one of these great teachers of this knowledge. Yes.
Actually, I borrowed that book. I have to get it back.
Get it back and read.
Yeah, I'll try.
These books have to be read several times. It cannot be read only once.
Exactly like yours, Carlos.
But mine has a lot of psychology in it, a lot of presence with lower P, which is nothing wrong with it. It's very useful. But I like to distinguish it. For me, presence with lower P is like a support of spirituality. It's like what allows the mind to pay attention to spirituality. What allows the mind to understand spirituality. Without psychology, the mind is so confused and so anxious and so stressed, it doesn't have the space, the time, the capacity, the power to follow the teachings of spirituality. Shall I go to the next question? There are several of you that don't have a camera, so I cannot see over. I mean, as I said, if you can put the camera, it's better. If you cannot, don't worry for it. But I will insist one more time. If you can put the camera so I can see you, it's more interactive that way. Anyway. But don't worry if you cannot, for whatever reason you cannot, or don't want to, it's no problem. You don't have to do it. The next question is, how do you see crisis in general? You know, I was thinking a crisis is simply anything that happens that I don't expect. A crisis I mean, there can be big crisis or a small crisis, but a crisis is an expression of life that I'm not expecting, or an expression of life that is not in accordance with my desires. That's a crisis. But it's good to see it is an expression of life. It is an expression of what can be expressed at any second, at any moment. Life can express in its infinite ways. And as long as life manifests in a way that is similar to what I want, to what makes me feel comfortable, then everything is fine. There is no crisis. For most people, there is usually no crisis. There is just a very even way of living. Nothing good happens too much, but nothing bad happens too much. There is just, I am okay. And that's how most people live. But then when the crisis comes, which we do so much to try to keep this even way of living, and in our modern society, we manage that. That's the interesting thing. In our modern society, we manage pretty well to keep this even, nothing too good, nothing too bad, comfortable enough to be okay, to be able to eat my meal, to go to work, to watch Netflix, to have some companionship, to not to feel cold. That's I will ask you to, and if you have to say something, please unmute yourself, but otherwise keep it mute so there is no background noises. Or I can do it. I think I can do it myself. Let me see. I think I can do it myself, but I don't know how to do it. Anyway. It doesn't matter anyway. I think I could do it myself to mute everybody, but I don't know how to do it. I should learn. Okay. I think there is somebody that is on mute and maybe it's not there, so it doesn't know. Who is on mute? Let me see.
It appears to me that Julia is on mute.
Yes,
Yeah.
Julia Rimia, yes. I think
Yeah, you
I can,
can mute her yourself.
I can mute her, mute audio. That's it. That's it. Done. Sorry, I just saw that what Alexandra wrote. She said that it was useful to have the interview in Romanian because she could forward it to a friend that doesn't speak English. You know, several people told me that they forward it to their moms or to their families or yes. You know that I never had any posts like so much in Facebook. There were like 500 likes in Facebook, and it's nice.
Sorry if I can add something.
Please do.
So it is, I forwarded to a friend who is more than 60, maybe 65, doesn't matter, but she now is in pension and it is very difficult for her to cope with this moment, like finishing her job activity, and she lives alone by herself. She has kids and grandkids, but still she lives alone and it is very difficult for her. And I try to explain something to her about connecting to the present moment, enjoying what life brings, but it is very difficult for her to cope with everything. And she said that the article was very useful and that she will read it all over again, trying to understand more and more.
Very
So
nice.
thank you also for this. Yeah.
Very nice to hear. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you. It's very nice to hear that. So, crisis, again, a crisis is a movement of life. Remember, that's something good to remember. It's a natural movement of life that doesn't agree with my likes. That's what the crisis is. My likes is anything that I want. I want people to love me. I want to be comfortable. I want to feel secure. I want to be happy. I want to. So a crisis is when a natural event, and even a crazy person is a natural event. When a natural event happens that disagree with my desire, disagree with my likes, that's a crisis for all of us. A sickness is a crisis. And a sickness is something that is a natural occurrence that happens to people. It means that it disagree with their wishes. My wish is to be healthy, of course. But a crisis is when a sickness happens and I cannot deal with it. So that's good to remember. That's what the crisis is. The problem is exactly what she says. She says, how can we do not to lose our inner compass? But that inner compass is so fundamental because for most people, the inner compass is what is mistaken. Instead of pointing north, it's pointing southwest. It's pointing the other direction. And that's why is that if we point in the right direction our compass, then the crisis will still be crisis. They will not hurt us so much. I mean, a crisis is a crisis. If you get sick, it's not fun. And I am dealing with it right now. I have a problem. I have a problem that happened 11 years ago, and now is hitting back. And it's hard to deal with a sickness. It's hard to deal with a problem in your body. It's a crisis. But the suffering really is not in the problem itself, but it's in the resistance. It's in the belief that what's happening is not natural. what happens is against the laws of nature. But it's not, nothing is. There is only the laws of nature, and everything that appears, including Donald Trump. Sorry if there is any Donald Trump favorite here. I hope there is no, but maybe there is one, sorry. But even the person that you think that is the most horrible person or whatever, even that is within the laws of nature. It's hard to get it, but there is nothing outside of the laws of nature. If you understand the whole history of that person, if you go back into the childhood, and if you go back into the childhood of their parents, and if you go back into the childhood of the parents of their parents, if you go back, you will start to understand the pattern, and you will start to see that there is no other way but to create exactly that particular thing that happened at that particular moment. Nothing is outside of the natural order. There is only the natural order. Actually, in the Indian tradition, God is not a person. I mean, there in India, sorry, but in India there are thousands of different branches. Just like in Christianity, there is, I don't know, there are 10 or 20 or whatever, or 30 branches, and each branch has a different view of God. In India, there is like 1,000. But one of the branches, which I enjoy very much, or that I learn most of my things, the natural order is God. God is not separated from nature. It's not nature, but it's also not separated from nature. So nothing is outside of God. Nothing is outside of the natural order of reality. So a sickness is not outside of the natural order of reality. So a lot of the suffering that comes out of a sickness is the resistance towards a sickness. It's not the sickness itself. Of course, a sickness is not fun. It's nothing that anybody will want. It's nothing that anybody will choose. But when one understands that the sickness is nature expressing itself, is life expressing itself, then you just take it as it is and you deal with whatever you have to deal with. You do whatever you have to do, but you're not resisting what is. You are in tune with nature, in tune with reality. You can even say it, in tune with God. That's the inner that's the compass. That's the compass we should have. That's the true compass. The connection with the whole, the connection with the big picture. The seeing that nothing is outside of the big picture. That's the true compass. Any comments or questions or adds in? All these subjects are very big subjects. They're very profound subjects. It's hard to get everything at once. If you don't hear this very often, it's very difficult to get it all at once. I recommend you very much to keep hearing these things over and over and over, even 100 times. Just to keep hearing, to keep rehearing many times in different ways, from different point of view, the same ideas, to start little by little assimilating these ideas. They're very big it's hard to get all at once. There is a big conditioning that we have, and these ideas are not part of our conditioning in general for most people. They were not for me, for sure.
So, Carlos, may I interfere?
Please.
If I understood correctly, pain comes from the body, while suffering is man-created. So we create suffering when we resist life, actually, or life manifesting itself.
That's a very very often I use the way of expressing. I like very much that. Remember, words are just whatever you make them mean. So I choose to mean to, these are just words, so you can use the words in many different ways. But I like to use the word pain as something that is unavoidable. And I like to use the word suffering as something that is created in the mind and it is avoidable with a right point of view. But remember, these are just definitions. Somebody else can talk about the same ideas, but with using different words. And so you have to understand the essence of it. But yes, I like very much what you said. I often said, and actually there is a note, Leah, which I talk exactly about that. It's called 3 Kinds of Suffering, I think it's called. What is my book? Let me just get my book. Yes, there is a note which I talk precisely about this, because I make a little bit more, I divide suffering in 3 different, not just in 2, not like pain and suffering, but I divide suffering in pain, real suffering, and unnecessary suffering. I like very much that note. There is one which is called About Suffering, but that's not the one. Okay, while we wait, don't get too lost in your thoughts. Stay with yourself as we wait.
I think it is the one at the page 241.
Okay. 3 Kinds of Suffering, perfect, that's it. Thank you. Yes, 3 kinds of suffering. So in that note, remember these are words, these are just definitions. You can define the same thing in different ways. But the definition I use in these notes, and I think is very useful as a definition, is pain, real suffering. Like we cannot just discard completely suffering. We can see suffering when there is sickness, when there is death, when somebody you love dies. When you see justice being hurt, these things are suffering. But the thing about suffering is that it doesn't last very long and it's very silent. It's very silent in the sense that it's something that happens in you. It happens very deep in your heart and it's very profound, but it's also silent and it also doesn't last too long. What is very loud and what lasts very long is what I call unnecessary suffering, which is all the stories in your mind. This shouldn't have happened. Why did it happen? Now I am afraid. Now I'm going to be alone. Why did this person did that? All these stories in your mind. Exactly what you said, Leah, is the creation, the mind creation. That's what I call unnecessary suffering. And that unnecessary suffering can be corrected, we can say, by a right attitude. And by attitude just means a good understanding of a situation. I recommend you to read the note. I think it's not very long, and I think it's very clear, very, very beautiful.
Yeah, I'll go back to it. And I think it would be very useful if we could, you know, go through your book chapter by chapter and, you know, just peel the onion, because it's a wonderful guide. I mean, you cannot tell more than it comprises.
Thank you,
It's
Leah.
everything there. It's everything.
It's not, there is a lot more, but I think it's a very wonderful, it's a very wonderful guide. I believe, I mean, I read it myself once in a while and I love it.
Yeah.
It's very nice. This is so, I do really, I think it's a very nice guide.
Because the new you had forgotten what you've written. I get it.
Let's go to the next one.
Carlos, I
Yes.
have a question regarding what you said about suffering. I was wondering now, what is the, let's say, a healthy balance between being in the mind and using it to find solutions for your suffering, and being connected with the awareness and understanding that you're not suffering? Because currently, in my current understanding, I see that I cannot do both of them in the same time, and I was wondering if there is a balance. If you see that it could be a balance between these two.
Well, your question can go very deep in understanding. I don't know how far we can go now, but just to bring it, suffering is in the mind. There is no suffering outside of the mind. Suffering is only a point of view. There is no suffering outside of a point of view. Suffering is in the mind. And awareness is what is aware of the suffering. Awareness is also what is aware of happiness, of joy. So awareness is not in the suffering, is not in the joy. If awareness was in the joy, then awareness couldn't change into the suffering. Awareness is aware of the joy and is aware of the suffering, but awareness is not involved. Awareness is like a light. Imagine in a play. Imagine the screen of a movie. One day there is the movie of a very violent movie where everybody dies. It's a very drama where at the end the main character dies and everybody is very sad. That is projected in the screen. Now, the screen is what allows the movie to happen, what allows the suffering to happen, what allows the suffering to be expressed. But the screen itself is not touched by the suffering, because tomorrow there will be a love story expressed in the movie, in the same screen, and the love story is going to have a very beautiful ending where the two are falling in love and they live forever happy. And that's also projected into the screen, and the screen is not affected by the joy of the couple. So the screen is not affected neither by the suffering nor by the joy. But without the screen, neither the suffering nor the joy could happen. Now, there is nothing you can do about that. All you can do is to understand that at the very essence of what you are the awareness, and what you are is not affected by what happens. This is a big thing. This is a monumental thing, what I just said. And it goes completely against everything that we have ever thought. I tell you, a lot of what I teach is very hard to get because it goes so far away from everything that we have ever thought or anything that anyone told us about what life is and what I am. In that sense, it's not easy to get what I am trying to say. In my classes, for example, when I teach, I don't go as deep as what we are talking now. I stay usually at the psychological level, at the suffering level. We try to deal with suffering, how to deal with suffering. We can think about suffering, we can think about pain, we can think about unnecessary suffering or real suffering. All this is within the mind. But spirituality is the realization that I am not the mind. And spirit, and we will talk about a little bit about spirit now, the next, I think the next one, or maybe not. Anyway, am I a spiritual being, or am I a material being, or am I a spiritual being? Well, I am a mix of both, definitely. But what I am really, what is really what I am? What is really looking through my eyes? What is really hearing through my ears? What is really at the depth of myself? Is it matter or is it spirit? What is matter? What is spirit? These are very profound questions, and also very beautiful answers. Very beautiful questioning, and okay, since we're talking about this, we can talk about the next question, which is overcoming fear. And overcoming fear, we talked a little bit before. Overcoming fear has a lot to do with the mind. So we can talk a bit about this, which actually we did talk already. I can go back to it a little bit. Or we can talk about the next one. No, sorry. The next one is, no, I missed one. So we can go back to that one. I missed one question, which is the one about spirit. So we can go now. Good. She says, in times of uncertainty, people begin to search for belief systems that could give them a sense of cohesion, that could provide both an explanation for the suffering and some form of solace, comfort. What is your spiritual advice for this period of isolation, uncertainty, and even pain for many of us? That was the question. And the answer that I gave, it was that solution is not in belief systems. And that's something that I found is so important. Many people trust in beliefs. Many people need beliefs. And that's very good. There is nothing wrong with it. But that's not the solution, because a belief is very easily broken. You know that, I don't know if you know, in America especially, there are a few people now that are going against many of the religions, very intellectual, very loving people. They're very beautiful people. There is somebody like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and many of the great scientists. And they're having this, how do you call it, when two people talk in a like when there is a debate, they're having debates. For example, there is somebody like Richard Dawkins talking with a priest, with a Jewish priest, or with a Catholic priest, or with or a Muslim priest, or something like that. And they are recorded in YouTube. You can hear them. And it's very hard if you are a believer. It can really destroy you. They're very popular now, very, very popular. And anyway, you can see that true believers believe no matter what. And anyway, but I don't think beliefs are the solution because of that, because of if you're really open, if you really have if you don't really are too close in your mind and you're open to hear, a belief can be broken. And we need to understand, we need to see for ourselves, we need to not just to believe, but to understand. And anyway, that's the first thing I put. And then I gave this, this quote: we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I said, we need to rediscover the truth about ourselves. That's a big thing. And actually, I doubt when I was thinking about what to answer to this question, I thought quite a bit about it. If I should write that or not, because the rest of the interview, there is a lot of psychology in it, but this is the most spiritual part of it. And I wasn't sure if to include that or not. Anyway, obviously I did it. You know, I was thinking how to say what is spirit. I mean, to me, we are spiritual beings. But what does it mean to be a spiritual being? What is spirit? That's a very big question, yes or not? What is spirit? And we think spirit maybe is like, I don't know, like a being that is moving through the air and that it can pass through a wall or something like that. That's what we think of a spirit. But let me try to, this is one way to understand spirit. See if it works. Spirit is the opposite of matter. That's one thing. So there is matter. So there are two things in the universe we can say. There is matter and there is spirit. So it's very hard to understand what is spirit, but we can see what is matter. And I thought about matter to give it three definitions. So the first definition of matter, and remember that matter, matter is what is, the name matter is something that was created by the Greeks, the word, and the word means what is outside of yourself. That's what is matter. It's outside of yourself, something like that. Something related to what is outside of yourself. That is what matter is. That's how the Greeks define it, and then we call it. But remember that right now, 21st century, nobody knows what matter is. They keep going deeper and deeper. Remember, matter for a while was an atom. That was the substance of matter was atoms. But then they broke the atoms, and then they found electrons. And then they go deeper and they found the quarks. And then they found mesoquarks, and then they found strings, and now they don't know what to do because it doesn't make sense. But right now, 21st century, they don't find the substance of matter, which means that right now, we don't know what matter is. But let me give you a definition of matter. Are you following more or less? Okay. Some of you. Matter, think of it. These are very big things. Matter is anything that can be experienced. That's the first one. Anything that, so this is my definition of matter as opposed to a spirit. So matter is everything that can be experienced. And everything can be experienced. So that's the first one. Matter is everything that can be experienced. The second one, matter is everything that changes. And what doesn't change? Everything is continually changing. Even our bodies, from the time now is 8 o'clock, which actually we should finish now. Anyway, now it's 8 o'clock. From the moment that we started at 6:30 to now, our bodies have changed enormously. Billions of our cells have died and new cells have been born. We don't see it because our senses are not made to see that change, but everything has changed in our body. Our thoughts have changed, our emotions have changed. So matter is everything that can be experienced. Matter is everything that changes, and matter is everything that is temporal. So these are three. There are more definitions, but the other ones are a bit more complicated and they take more thought. So I thought these three are good enough. And so what is spirit? Spirit is exactly the opposite. Spirit is the one that is the awareness that is aware of experience. So matter is everything that can be experienced. So experienced by what? Matter is everything that can be experienced. Experienced by what?
By our mind.
By?
Our mind.
Well, the mind can be experienced. What is the mind? I mean, this is if you understand this, you're done. This is a very big understanding. This is right here is a very, very important understanding. It seems that it's the mind that is aware, but actually awareness is aware of the mind. What is the mind? The mind is composed of thoughts, of emotions, of memories. Are you aware of your thoughts? Yes. Are you aware of your emotions? Yes. Otherwise you wouldn't know you have them. Are you aware of your memories? Yes. What is aware of your thoughts, of your emotions, of your memories? What is it?
Awareness.
And awareness is spirit.
And awareness allows experience.
Without awareness, experience cannot happen.
Okay.
But what is awareness? This is a very big step. We said awareness, but there is another word for awareness, more intimate word.
Consciousness.
That's similar, consciousness, awareness. There is another word which is much more intimate.
Inner self.
Okay.
I.
Which one?
I.
Exactly. Who is aware? I am aware. except that when I say I, what am I saying when I say I? I'm saying I the body, I the mind. But the body is an object of experience or is the experiencer? The body can be experienced, yes or no? Can you experience your body? So the body is matter, but you are aware of the body. You think that the mind is aware of the body, but the mind is the thought and emotions and memories, and you're also aware of that. So are we spiritual beings or are we material beings? Well, we are a mix, but at the very essence of what we are what is aware, and what is aware is not matter. Is the awareness is the subject, and everything else is the object. These are
So if I,
sorry.
sorry.
Yes.
So if I understood well, our awareness is not given by our mind.
Yes. You understand well? Yes. The mind, that's, you know, this is how the picture comes. This is what most people in the whole world think. One day, the Big Bang happens. And then the Big Bang happens, and then gases appear. Gases started little after billions of years. Gases started to create stars. After billions of years, the stars started to create planets. After billions of years, some planets started to create water appears, and then out of water, some plants appear, and then somehow life appears. And then after billions of years, that life started to create more refined organs. And then after billions of years, out of those organs, a little tiny thing called awareness appear. That's how we think, yes or not? Awareness is at the very end of the chain. It started with the Big Bang, all the way down, 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 all the way to awareness. Now, this teaching, what it's saying, is that awareness was at the very beginning. And out of awareness, everything came out. Not that matter was there and then awareness came out of matter, but we need to reverse the whole thing. The whole thing is upside down. And instead of saying that awareness came out of matter, you need to understand that matter somehow is projected from awareness. Awareness is the ocean, and out of the ocean, waves appear. It's not the wave that creates the ocean, but it's the ocean that creates the waves. We are talking very high now. And I don't know how many of you really are, I mean, this is, to be interested in this is to be interested in very unique things. Anyway, I see that some people are starting to disappear. And it could be because of the time, or it could also be because of the subject. But I mean, we are several less than we started.
Maybe they disappeared into our awareness.
The thing is that awareness never disappears. Anyway, I think there was a lot.
So can we have the definition of the spirit? It's just one you gave me.
The definition of spirit is, it is the subject, it's not the object. So it's not the object of experience, but it is the subject of experience. It is what sees, not what is seen. Everything that is seen is matter. What sees is spirit. That's what I call spirit. What I call spirit is not something out there that is moving through the air. What I call spirit is what sees. And everything else is what is seen. That's the first one. The second one is spirit is what never changes. We mentioned before, everything is changing. Your thoughts are continually changing. Your emotions are continually changing. Your body is continually changing. But the same awareness is aware of the thoughts, is aware of the emotions, is aware of the changes of your body. When you were 5 years old, you had a very small body and you had certain thoughts and certain emotions. That the awareness that was aware of that body when you were 5 years old, that was aware also of your thoughts and emotions, is the same awareness that is aware now of this older body with these new thoughts and new emotions. And it will be the same awareness that will be aware when you're 90 years old and you're having a very, very sick body or whatever you have, and you have different thoughts and different emotions. The awareness is the same awareness. That awareness that doesn't change is what I call spirit. So when I mention spirit, I mention awareness. And awareness is right here and now, looking through our eyes. It's not out there. It's not in heaven or in hell or after you die or tomorrow or after you have an understanding. Awareness is right here and now, looking through our eyes. Think that the mind is looking through the eyes. But awareness is illumining the mind, and the mind is the tool that interpret experience. You don't have to get that today, I promise you. But if you somehow, if what I'm saying doesn't sound too crazy, and it doesn't sound too weird, and it doesn't sound something that you don't care at all, then that's beautiful. That's what I call true spirituality, the recognition of what we are. And the recognition of what we are is the true solution to our life, is the true solution. Psychology is very useful, but it's not enough. That was, I didn't expect that we will go so deep, and Tavi asked me, he says, do you have doubts about the theory that you believe to be true? That's a very good question, Tavi, and not easy to answer. You see, this doesn't come as a belief, it comes as a logic. The whole understanding is a logical understanding. It's like the study of this is called self-inquiry, and self-inquiry is an inquiry into the nature of our experience. And so what you do is you try to go deep into how it is that we actually experience the world. What is that is experienced in the world? And so it's a very long study, it's a very profound study, but what is so important about this study is that it's not based on a belief, but it's based on a logic. It's a logic that is not created by me. I didn't create this at all. It's something that comes from for a long time ago. And it's a logic that takes you step by step. What do you see? How do you see? And who is seeing? And so it's a logic that's it's very convincing. It's very, very convincing. And try to see that, like, for example, what is death? We've seen that death is the end of everything. But how do you come to the conclusion? Well, you came up to the conclusion out of a logic. You see a person alive, then you see the body dead, and you said, okay, the person is dead, that's it, it's finished. That's a logic. You believe in the logic of your senses. You believe that when the body dies, that's the end. But how do you know that that logic is the ultimate logic? What happens if somebody comes and gives you a different logic, a different possibility? And then you start to think about that possibility, and then you start to create a doubt about the old logic, and you start to see that, well, maybe there is another possibility to start to think about. It's not that you have to believe in anything, but you start to see that there is a different logic. Remember that all our conclusions about life are based on logic. There is nothing else. We think we are thinking creatures. A dog doesn't think logically. A dog only has a pattern of, it has a conditioning, and then out of that conditioning, the dog acts. We also have a very strong conditioning, but our conditioning is based on logic, which is something that the dog doesn't have. So a dog cannot understand these ideas because it doesn't have the possibility to see the logic behind his conditioning. A dog will not suffer. That's interesting. Talking about Elia, talking about suffering. A dog cannot suffer. A dog can feel pain. But because a dog doesn't have the logic, it cannot suffer. But it can feel a lot of pain. But a dog cannot say what happens to me should not be happening. The should not be happening is in the logic. It's a logic. This should not be happening. A dog cannot think that way. It doesn't have the tool to think this should not be happening. So a dog, it has a broken leg, and he cannot think that he shouldn't have a broken leg. A broken leg is the only possibility there is. There is nothing but a broken leg. And so my broken leg is very painful, and I suffer the pain, but I don't suffer the belief that I shouldn't have broken my leg, or it will be so nice not to have a broken leg, or why this bigger dog broke my bigger leg, my leg. It doesn't have those thoughts, so it cannot suffer. It doesn't have a story. but also because it cannot have a logic, it cannot discover its truth. It cannot discover that what is looking through the eyes of a dog is awareness. It cannot do that. A dog will be born as a dog and it will die as a dog. But most people will be born as a person and will die as a person. But we have the chance to be born as a person, but to die as awareness, which means that we don't die. That only the body dies, but not us. But that's an understanding. It is like this, even if you understand it or not. It is like this. But if you don't understand it, then you return as the belief that you have. Anyway, that's a... Yes, please do come back, Tavi, with more... So there are some questions here. I didn't see there were some... The problem is time is...
Time is up.
Time is up. Let me go very quickly. Can you recommend one or more exercise to help us lessen the conditioning that we are the body? That's a beautiful one. You answer yourself. One is to try to see the body transparent. That's a very good exercise. But Joanna, you start to see clearly that the body is not aware and that you are aware. Look at your hand and ask your hand, do you see me? Do you know what's happening to me? The hand has not a clue. The hand is matter. The hand is not aware, and I am aware. So the body is a tool. It's like an app. It's a beautiful app. But look at the computer. The computer is the hard drive. It's not the soft drive. It's not the apps. The apps are very useful for the computer. The apps makes the computer do many things. But the computer itself is not the apps. If you take an app from the computer doesn't stop working. It may don't have so many possibilities to produce things, but the computer is still working. The body is like an app. The mind is a more refined app. Try to think this way, return to it. But I tell you, the most difficult thing there is, I mean, the whole of spirituality is to the recognition that I am not the body. I tell you, that's the thing. So it takes a lot of time. And in some places they say it takes many lifetimes. I mean, the truth is right here and now, but it takes a lot of time to understand that there is no time. And it takes a lot of lifetimes to understand that there is no lifetime, that there is only now. That's one of these contradictions that is very hard to make sense of. That it takes a lot of time to understand that there is no time. That's what they say, the understanding is immediate, is now. But to come to that now, it takes a long, long time. Yes, Camelia, she said that the last theory is that the particle of matter is Higgs boson, which is the God's particle. But they don't know, I mean, this is a theory. And the thing is that the Higgs boson is like the atom. They will, sooner or later, they will find that you can go deeper, you can go in, you can more in. Remember that, look at the God's particle. We will finish with this. This is huge. This is very big, but it's beautiful. What is a particularity of the God's particle? What is the interesting particularity of it?
Cannot be predicted.
Okay, that's something in the theory, in the science, but there is something more that we've been talking about it pretty much the whole time. So we've been talking about this when I'm asking you. It depends on,
They say,
it depends on you. You
yeah,
have to be aware of it. Try to separate the God's particle from your awareness. Has anybody ever have separated, like you can separate the book from the class? There are two things here. Here is a book. Here is a book. Here is a cup. Yes, there are two things. Try to separate the particle from your awareness. Try. Try to separate matter, anything, from your awareness. Try. Ask any scientist if they were ever able to separate any matter from their awareness. It's like they keep looking in deeper and deeper and deeper. They went so deep as to find the God's particle, which is very, very deep, and it's an amazing discovery. I mean, who knows where it takes us does. It's at the level of science, it's impressive, it's amazing, it's wonderful, it's beautiful. But there is one thing they are missing. The observer. They keep looking out, they keep looking out, they keep looking out. But they don't see that before that, there is the awareness. Not the mind, not the body, but the awareness, that without the awareness, you cannot observe. Anyway, I leave you that to meditate on. But this is a
word.
I'm impressed that you still around, at least some of you, and it's very happy that you're still around. I hope it was not too hard. But there is a note. Read it again. I think it's one of these notes. The one that is called True Spirituality. I think it's called True Spirituality. The True Spirituality, the Nature of Presence. Read that note again in my book. And also in the next retreat, we will go deeper into these things for sure. These are the limits of science. Yes, these are the limits of science. Science has to objectify everything. That's at the very essence of science is objectifying. Objectifying means looking at, seeing there. You have to see it. That's the whole idea of science. You have to see it. But spirituality is not about the seeing, but it's about the seer. So that's why science has its realm, and spirituality has its realm. Science is about the seen. Spirituality is about the seer. It's about who is seen. It has been a pleasure talking about this. I mean, I love talking about this. I spend my whole day thinking about these things, and as much as I can. I love this, and But think
So
about our experience is everything. Our whole life is based on our experience. Everything. I mean, all our problems are based on the way we see the world. All our relationships, all our difficulties, everything is based on our experience. So how important is to understand our experience? If you understand this, it's at the very essence of your, if you understand experience, then the whole world, you understand the whole essence of your world. Anyway. Thank you very much. And for this week, that's all we have. But starting next week, I'm still not much better, but I will, on Monday, I will start with the classes again. And so hopefully to see you Monday in the class. I will send the schedule on Sunday, but hopefully we will start on Monday again with the classes. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, really. And see you soon again. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
bye, Carlos. Thank you so much.
Ciao, Leah. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Bye.
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you, Carlos.
Ciao, Madi.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you. Who's that?
Silvio.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very nice to have you there.
Very nice to listen to you.
Thank you. Ciao, Silvio.